Broadcasting from Salisbury University campus, this is WSDL Ocean City, NPR News Talk 90.7, putting Delmarva first. Stay tuned for Delmarva Today with your host, Don Rush.
It's time for the bright lights and Christmas presents, whether there are those who are simply searching for a warm meal, a warm bed, and a better life. Welcome to Delmarva Today. This is Don Rush. There are about 7,100 homeless in the state of Maryland, and many organizations turn out to help them amidst the cold weather. But homelessness is more than simply helping out during the festive holidays. Here in Salisbury, there's the Christian Shelter, which seeks to help the homeless long after the holiday cheer has disappeared. It has its first executive director, Anthony Dickerson, who has just come on board, and he's in our studio this morning. Welcome to the program.
Thank you. Welcome. Welcome. It's good to be here.
So what? Give me some sense about your own background and your own interest in homelessness.
Well, I've been pastoring now some 23 years at one church in Cambridge. I've been preaching ever since the age of 18. And actually, my relationship with the Christian Shelter goes back when I was the age of 16. It was on Barclay Street, a little place on Barclay Street where I helped a lady by the name of Miss Gloria Wagner. She had a prison ministry, and so I was able to assist her with prison ministry, so forth. And like I said, I've been preaching several years. And my background is actually I started with Shore Up. Shore Up, with the training and employment, help individuals to find employment. Where Bill Clinton did the welfare, the work, so I help individuals find the individuals that were impoverished, help them to find employment. So I worked for several nonprofits over the years. And basically, these individuals were homeless, and I was basically a resource. I would connect them to different type of resources in the community, help them find jobs, not only help them find jobs, but help them to maintain employment. So I've been doing this pretty much all my life, in some way, shape, or form.
So, and what was it like back in those early days, particularly when you were very young? And was anything there that surprised you about the homeless when you first started volunteering, getting involved?
Well, it was just heartbreaking to see individuals that could not afford to take care of themselves, could not afford to find food and shelter. So it was very heartbreaking, and it inspired me to say, "Hey, look, I want to do something to help change lives." But it wasn't a lot of children back then like it is now. So it was quite an emotional experience for me.
And you mentioned that you worked with the former prisoners. What was that like? And what were they like? And what don't we know about them? Because we often walk around with lots of stereotypes about people coming out of prison.
Some of the most talented individuals are incarcerated. I think they have never been exposed to structured living. How to structure and how to control their emotions and how to make good choices and how to apply wisdom to certain situations. So they were very articulate. They were very talented. Because one of the guys made me an apron, and see, I'm a Philadelphia Eagles fan. They made me an apron with the Eagles logo, and so it was just the talent was phenomenal. So where I came in, I offered them hope. Although they were incarcerated, then it does not mean that they still cannot function as an individual, and they have an opportunity now to build up themselves.
You mentioned a moment ago, and we'll probably get into a little bit later too, is that when you started, families were not necessarily a large portion of what you saw as the homeless. Now we see, a number of families. I think I was looking at some of the statistics in which there are sometimes make up as much as 60 or 70% of the homeless that, say, shelters like yourself deal with. What do you make of that? Why has that changed, do you think?
We're starting to see now families It's not common that individuals with substance abuse, individuals with mental health challenges that are homeless, but now we're starting to see families. And I think what it is that families just cannot afford to live. They can't afford to pay their bills. They can't afford the rent, especially the rent here in Wycomico County is just extremely high. And my goal is what I want to do at the shelter is actually work with the landlords to help them to give individuals that are homeless, to give them opportunity.
And one of the stats I was looking at, I think in 2018 at the shelter, something like 35% of those who are homeless that are in the shelter, they're children.
Absolutely. Right now we have 57. We have about 27 children at the shelter right now, which is heartbreaking. Is heartbreaking because that means these children, in some way, shape, or form, cannot experience a normal life. They can't get up in the morning and go and get something to drink, or they can't get on their Xbox, or certain things that they can't do because our shelter is pretty much structured. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And so. But one of the things I try to do is allow the children to experience that sense of normalcy.
The other stat I was looking at, particularly at least for 2018, in terms of your own shelter, you've served something like a little over 1,100. Mm-hmm. But the stat also says you had to turn away something like 1,700.
Right, because we don't have the space. We don't have the space.
Yeah, I mean, is it that we just don't provide enough? Shelter, enough resources for people that, obviously you can't take them all, but
right.
They may not have gone to some other shelter too, for that matter.
Right. And see, our shelter is more or less geared to families, where your other shelters are your traditional shelters that shelters either men or women. Mm-hmm. And sometimes they may not encompass the whole family. And I think we need more shelters that will encompass the whole family. Because, again, we're starting to see an increase of families out on the street. I just got a call this morning. There's a family sleeping in a van with a newborn baby, 2 children, right here in Salisbury. So when I go back to the office, I gotta see if I can accommodate this family.
How does a family get along on the street? How do they do it?
The best they can. The best they can.
Mm-hmm. Now, you also talked about this idea when you're taking on, I saw some interviews, you said you want to take the shelter to the next level.
To the next level. Well, who would ever think that we can go to McDonald's and get a Happy Meal with a debit card? The moral of the story is that you can't use 8-track tape methods in the digital world. So sometimes you have to upgrade your strategy. What I mean by I want to be able to take the Christian shelter to another level. First of all, we have to identify our purple cow, what I call identifying the purple cow. And what I mean by that, if you're driving on the road and you see a brown cow, white cow, you're going to say, oh, that's a white cow. But if you're driving on the road and you see a purple cow, you're going to stop and do a double take. So the moral of the story is that I want to be able to the community to do a double take. Say, whoa, that shelter is really doing things. One of the things I want to do is to institute some type of various type of programs that will train these individuals. Life skills program, career development, helping them to understand credit and repairing their credit, financial literacy. I want to partner with some senior citizens, partner with these mothers with senior citizens that can teach them how to prepare a meal, teach them how to take care of the house, teach them how to wash their clothes. We have a whole upstairs, which is about 9,000 square feet, and we're not doing anything. I want to turn that into a career center. I want to turn that into a career center where people can come in that neighborhood and find jobs, work with employers. So more or less, a transitional form of shelter. And
do you have models of what this might look like? Are you looking at places that you say, oh, mm-hmm. This is the way they did it?
Yeah. Next year, the first of the year, I'm going to, there's a breakfast mission in Wilmington. I'm going to be visiting that for 2 days. I'm going to spend some time with the executive director there. And then in Baltimore, there's another mission there. I think it's the Hands Up or Helping Up. I can't really remember the name. And actually, this gentleman, I'm going to see if he'll be able to mentor me as an executive director, because I believe I don't know it all, and people who've been doing it longer than I have. I'm open to mentorship, and so I'm going to be visiting those two shelters, and then basically take some from Wilmington and take some from Baltimore, and basically tailorize it to a Christian shelter.
Now, you also talk about a moment ago about reaching out to landlords to find housing.
Yes,
How do you envision that working?
Well, one of the things that I want to do is possibly meet the landlords and get them to understand, because many of them may not understand what some of these families may go through and why sometimes they may not be able to pay their rent. One of the things that they're doing in San Diego is that they're working with the landlords, and they offer them tax credits, and for individuals for the individuals that are homeless. If they offer them rent, then they'll get a tax credit. They'll get a tax break from the city. So I'm going to try to take that San Diego model and maybe present it to our officials to see if they can give the landlords a tax break if they will rent to individuals that are homeless.
Do you think the city should do more? I mean, how receptive do you think the city is going to be? I know
I think the cities are. I think the city of Salisbury, and I met with Mayor Jake, and I think he's doing. I think he's doing a phenomenal job in really addressing the homeless here in Salisbury. Matter of fact, I attend a Lower Shore Homeless Alliance. Matter of fact, I'm going to a meeting on Thursday, and it's all the shelters and all the organizations that assist homelessness. We come together once a month. The second Thursday of every month, we meet at St. James AME Zion, and they're doing some. This committee is doing some phenomenal things. I think Mayor Jake I think he did a proposal of panhandling, where he's able to pay homeless to doing some little jobs that nobody else wants to do. And I think they have another organization that they're partnering with, is where they're going to set up a trailer, and it's going to where homeless will be able to take showers. So I think he's doing a great job in really addressing homelessness, but it's still going to take more collaborated activities for all of us to pull together to address the homelessness here in Wycomico County and on the Lower Eastern Shore.
Now, these obviously are the holidays, and some of the homeless are actually able to stay with, say, for instance, family, because it's a sort of an outpouring of giving during this time of year. But eventually, of course, the welcome mat wears out, I guess, as it were. What do you make of the relationship between the homeless and those secondary kind of opportunities to find a place to stay or to find help, say, for instance, with relatives? I mean, what is that relationship like, do you think?
Well, one of the things that I can only speak for what we do at the shelter, when individuals stay with us here at the shelter, and they can stay anywhere between 30 and 90 days. It just depends on their service goals and how they accomplish. One of the things that we do, we partner with different type of agencies that can help them find housing, and what we do is we have an 80-20 rule. You give us 80% of your earnings. We'll put that in the savings for you. You live off of 20. So we don't spend that 80%. But once they have found housing and so forth, we're able to give that to them, and they'll be able to take care of their housing needs. So we work hard to try to transition these individuals back in the community, and we want them to be better and what they can. But I'm finding that some of the relationships between their families and so forth, some of it is not that good. Some of them they don't want to listen, they don't want to follow the rules or so forth, and sometimes family really have no choice. But I'm going to have to ask you to leave. So, but it's just sad that sometimes it's done around the holiday.
Is this a depressing time, do you think, for people who are homeless because of all the festivities on the one hand, yet their situation on the other?
I think it is because no one really wants to be in that situation. But one of the things that we try to do at the shelter, we try to make the holiday extremely fun.
What do you do there?
One of the things, well, I'm excited. This week, Dollar Tree is giving me 20 boxes of toys. 20 boxes of toys. Another local organization is going to give me some bicycles. I got to call him today. Another organization, and this was before the holiday. Before the holiday. He gave me 45 boxes of shoes for my men. He gave me some clothes for my men, and so we all got together and we sorted the clothes, and they just had a ball. You thought it was Christmas, in November. And so we make sure that every family is adopted. We've got scooters that is going to be coming in this week. So we try to make it fun. My sister and I, we usually host a big breakfast for the homeless. And now that I'm working for the shelter, we're going to have it right on Christmas Day. I mean, we have everything. We have it late because again, we want it to be at the shelter the best Christmas they ever had. And some of them are going to have a great Christmas at the shelter. And some of them, I believe, they probably have never had the type of Christmas that we plan to give these guests.
So, of course, the inevitable question is, once the festivities are over, what is that like for someone who's homeless, who really sort of comes back to the reality that they have to live?
Yeah, it's back to trying to find a place to stay again, and it's just sad that after the festivity is over, then sometimes it don't sink in until then.
One of the things that I've been reading about, particularly for homelessness, is the idea of establishing shelter first, that is, having a home first. A lot of programs emphasize earning the home. That is to say, well, you got to do X, Y, and Z, and if you do all these things, then finally we will find a home for you. As opposed to some cities in which are now beginning to say, well, maybe what we need to do is find housing first, and once we get that piece of the puzzle, as it were, then everything else becomes a lot easier. What's your sense about that?
One of the things that I want to do next year is to do a rent-to-own program. A rent-to-own program, and this is phenomenal, is where I'm getting some lenders together, I'm getting some financial counselors together, and I'm getting some real estates. I'm bringing everybody to the table. Let's do a pilot program. Let's do maybe 2 families. Let's put them in a rental situation, but so much of their rent will go towards closing costs. So while they're renting, let's work with them. Let's work with their credit. Let's work with their spending. Let's give them a budget, and it's almost like we're walking them through. We're teaching them, and we're preparing them to own their home as opposed to renting their home. So, and what I'm finding is that a lot of these individuals need to be taught. They have never been taught money management. What they do is what I call they buy their wants and they beg their needs. And that's what happens. So they don't know how to put priorities. So if we do a pilot program to see how this works, I think this is something that we can really launch and even present to the world. And I think this, because I'm big on being proactive in addressing homelessness rather than reactive. I think sometimes we're so reactive that we're not proactive. We're not giving them the tools and the skills that they need. Perfect example. I had a gentleman right in my shelter. 60 years. He never lived on his own. 60 years. I mentored him. I helped him find a job. We worked with him in some of his finances and so forth. This gentleman, in 52 days, he'd been knowing me 52 days, he was able to save $1,800, and he was able to move in his own apartment. He was so excited. 60 years old. He never lived on his own. So I know this works.
How employable are the homeless, and are there a number of homeless, for instance, that you encounter that already have jobs?
Some of the homeless are on disability. So
Okay.
if I find that they're on disability, what I'm finding now, a lot of employers now are willing to open up part-time opportunities. I'm working with a poultry company that's doing part-time now, 20 hours a week. So I'm able to get someone that's even on disability to help them to supplement their income. I can guarantee anybody that can work, I can guarantee them employment within 30 days. But again, they've got to be willing to work. And plus, I can help provide transportation for them. Because a lot of the partners I had at Goodwill, some of the partners are following me here at the shelter. They're willing to work with me at the shelter.
What about the issue of skills? What are you seeing?
When we talk about skills, you got to remember employers hire character, but they train skills. Meaning, in my job readiness class, I don't care how skillful you are, you got to have the right attitude. So what I do is I help them to develop that positive attitude. So an employer can train the skills. I can train you to be a machine operator, but I can't train you to come to work on time. I can't train you to be dependable. So I focus on those soft skills, those transferable skills, those skills you take from one job to the other. And most, and I try to get them to see there are 4 levels to a job: survival, entry level, transitional, and then there's the dream job. Right now, you need a survival job. You need money coming in. And so what I do is I encourage them, let's go for the survival job. Let's go, let's look at the poultry industry. And because again, you need a check coming in every week. You know, retail might not give you that. Fast food may not give you that. They'll give you 20 hours one week, 3 hours the next week. But you need a job where you know you're going to get $523.45 every week. And then you're able to budget from that.
Right, right.
And so I tried to give them those skills that they may have never been afforded. And those I expose them to certain opportunities and get them to rethink the process.
So do most of them wind up, do most of them have jobs and they just can't afford, like for instance, say they can't, I mean, we mentioned a moment ago that housing very expensive.
Yeah,
no matter where you go.
we have quite a few that are working. Some of them can't work because of disability. So what we do, I encourage volunteer. Let's do some volunteering while you can't work. And that way when there's an opportunity, a job opportunity, guess what? You can still use volunteering as work experience.
And I guess I was just reading a moment ago, earlier this morning, that the unemployment rate in Wicomico County is at 4%. At some of the other counties, by the way, as much as like maybe 2.5% unemployment. And there's been in Wicomico County in particular, I think the increase in actual job growth was like 1.6. What does that do in terms of your ability then, do you think, to be able to find employment for people when you have such a low unemployment rate? Does it create more opportunities? Does it make them be able to get maybe perhaps a better pay? I mean, what's sense to you about that?
It does. What I try to do is build a relationship with employers, with the HR staff, and share with them my vision. And building those relationships, I'm able to create opportunities for individuals. One of the things that I'm excited, one of the employers that I've been working with is DART. For the longest time, it was only maybe a handful of people from Salisbury were working for DART. But when I was at Goodwill, I was able to get customized transportation, door-to-door transportation through a friend of mine. He now transport workers back and forth to DART. Their starting pay is over $13 an hour, plus benefits. And through working with them and through our partnership, we got them to possibly take a look at the affordable wage and be competitive with all the other employers.
Before we let you go, I'll give about the minute left. Jim Barnes, he was here for a very long period of time.
Man.
You obviously knew him. In about a minute, what do you think his legacy is?
Man, he's gonna be. It's gonna be hard to fill his shoes because he was a man of integrity, man of character, and he left a legacy. And I met with him one-on-one with tears in my eyes, and I says, "Brother Barnes, you left a legacy." And I says, "I'm promising you that I will continue the legacy that you and the forefathers of this Christian shelter. I promise you, I'll make you proud. And we will continue the legacy. And one of the things that he always wanted, he said, don't forget to preach Jesus to these individuals. And that's what I do on a daily basis.
You optimistic?
Very optimistic. Very optimistic. I think we're going to be the best kept secret in Salisbury, but the secret is about to be revealed.
You're about to be out there. Okay. We've been talking with Anthony Dickerson. He is the new first executive director for the Christian shelter here in Salisbury, which helps out the homeless. We appreciate you stopping by and chatting with us.
Thank you for having me.
This has been Delmarva Today. I'm Don Rush. Thanks for listening.
Thank you for watching Delmarva Today, a production of Delmarva Public Radio. Production and audio engineering by Chris Rank. Hosted by Don Rush. For podcasts, visit delmarvapublicradio.net or subscribe to the Delmarva Today podcast on iTunes. You can also watch Delmarva Today on PAC 14 by tuning into Comcast Channel 14 or youtube.com/PAC 14.